a tip. Some machines and online games have higher average payouts than others. Want to try to maximize your odds? Well, do some research online to find games which have the highest RTP or return to player percentage. So now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high. But the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that ring. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple of
15.5-point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. That's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern.
Game Time Decisions is live right here on SportsGrid on this Monday night. Kevin Walsh with you for the next 2 hours as we get set for a Monday slate that, let's be honest, you're missing the tournament. You are. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it was glorious. And to get your men's college basketball fix, well, you've largely missed your window. It's just the CBI, half number 2 of Cleveland State Queens University, that remains. The women's game does provide us some action with some of your top teams playing tonight. We will discuss that. The NBA featuring a couple of important games to the Western Conference race. We'll see the Denver Nuggets hosting the Chicago Bulls, still without Nikola Jokic. We'll see the Lakers in Orlando with LeBron James booked as 4.5-point favorites. The NBA slate tonight also gets the return of Anthony Davis. The second game for AD in a Maverick uniform will be tonight in Brooklyn against the Nets. AD's lone performance for the Mavericks was in a victory, but he did exit early, playing 31 minutes, 26 points, 16 rebounds, 7 assists, 3 blocks. Anthony Davis was absolutely brilliant in that game. We now see the Mavericks up to 4-point favorites. AD tonight, 16.5 is his points prop. The rebound number checking in at 8.5. So clearly still some of these numbers not believing that Anthony Davis, not projecting that Anthony Davis will be seeing a full workload. Always tough to tell what type of workload you will be getting from AD. NHL card tonight will give you 4 games. Nothing really standout style. The best of the bunch would probably be Dallas and Minnesota out west, with the Stars booked as over -200 favorites right now at home. In terms of the National Football League, we have over the weekend seen a few markets materialize. Number 2 overall pick odds, Abdul Carter, the favorite, the Penn State edge rusher, and then Travis Hunter is now a minus money price to be selected by the New England Patriots, presently drafting at 4th overall. We could see Travis Hunter go to New England. What would that mean for his future? All things we will get into, as well as It's debut week for Major League Baseball. The real one, not the one they already kind of did. On Thursday, the season will begin at 3 o'clock. We will start officially the full Major League Baseball season. Tonight, we will get you a Take 5 from the crew. They've put their heads together. Yankees Brewers will start things off. The defending World Series champion LA Dodgers will play their third regular season game of the season against the AL Cy Young from last year, Tariq Skubal. So really excited for all of that here tonight. For those of you that are looking for action, I think one of the things that they do very well in the women's game is offering up action tonight. College basketball throughout the day. We saw a top seed in Texas take out Illinois. We have LSU going right now against Florida State. There are 3 games that remain. A 3 seed in North Carolina hosting West Virginia. These games are on home campuses within the round of 64 and 32. We then have the number 2 seed in the UConn Huskies going up against South Dakota State out of the Summit. And then the number 1 USC Trojans with Juju Watkins will be hosting Mississippi State, a 9 seed out of the SEC. Couple of looks for me, actually, on that portion of the slate. I like the over in UConn, South Dakota State. That number right now being priced at 136.5. South Dakota State's reps against top competition. You would look to the game against Duke. You would look to the game against Texas, both going well over the listed total for those games. And what is tonight's total here against UConn? 160 points when they matched up on the road with Texas defensively. They did not have it. When they did host Duke, they scored 71 in a losing effort, but a covering effort, 75-71. UConn right now looks to be on a mission. It's a big reason why, despite being a 2 seed in their region, they are infringing on title favorite territory just behind South Carolina. I think that if UConn is running it up, that still helps us get points here. So give me over 136.5. USC and Juju Watkins rolled easily against UNC Greensboro in a 1-16 matchup. 71-25 was your final score. 18.5-point favorites against Miss State. Your superstars do have props tonight. Juju Watkins checks in with a points prop of 25.5. Kiki Irifan you could find for a points plus rebounds number at 25.5. I would look towards Watkins points plus rebounds at 32.5. A tournament performer who maybe didn't have the most gaudy performance in the opening game. 22 points, checked in with 8 rebounds in that one. She only played 28 minutes, which for Watkins is below her season average comfortably. Didn't shoot it incredibly well. Might need a little bit more against Miss State. So I do think you can look towards Juju Watkins tonight in the props market for their game against Mississippi State. As far as the men's game goes, the takeaways, the setups, the situations we find ourselves in with the Sweet 16 solidified. The Duke Blue Devils are the favorites to win the national championship. Their game against Baylor was dominant. And while I didn't think Baylor had much of any chance to actually win that basketball game, I myself grabbed plus 12.5, feeling as if Baylor could keep it close. And for a moment, it was 24-23. Baylor. And then it was 47-30 Duke heading into the half. Blue Devils offense right now is playing so well, and for so much of this season, the story of this team was the defense, and the defense is still great, but it's the offense that grades out as the best in the country right now, and it's that offense you have to wonder, can anyone stop specifically beyond the arc, where they are just lighting teams on fire. We did nearly lose the second favorite in the market. That would be the Florida Gators. They're at various points of their game with UConn booked as a live underdog. We did see their national title price nearly touch plus 800. They are presently sitting at plus 430, a date with Maryland on Thursday. Auburn and Houston do round out the top 4 choices. They round out, of course, our number 1 seeds. What we do still have, though, remaining in this bracket is the 30-plus club. We talked about this before the tournament began. Was there any world that the winner would not come from a team of a 30-plus net rating? How dominant typically those teams are? Well, they are all here, and we did officially put Alabama in that group. Their net rating on KenPom now, a 30.12, as they got over that number with an excellent offensive effort against St. Mary's and a pretty good defensive run, where now they do grade out as a top 30 defense in college basketball. We will be talking about the Sweet 16 tonight, certainly on our show, but we do now check in with the NBA tonight. My favorite side on the NBA card, what Anthony Davis returning means, and how the Lakers stack up on the road against the Orlando Magic. That is all next right here. It is Game Time Decisions on SportsGrid on a Monday night. We will be right back.
So my team didn't win this weekend, but I still did with this app that's taking over the game. Sports Millions Pick'em lets you make quick and easy predictions. Pick your favorite players, go higher or lower, and you can still win big even if your team loses. Plus, the multiplier is insane. With just a few picks, you can win big money. So get on it. They've got a welcome bonus to help you start off your winning streak.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts, so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Back in the right here on Game Time Decisions on this Monday night, where everybody is still just so ingrained in it. Just the thoughts are all with this tournament, this bracket. We're down to 16 teams, and it is now something we got to try and dive into a little bit more with Rohit Panaya. Joins us, of course, over from Covers, where he had a fantastic start to this tournament here. Rohit, just tell me a little bit about the process and maybe what was working for you through the round of 64 into the round of 32.
Yeah, I think it was a lot of the times it was just kind of looking at those market inefficiencies, especially when you were seeing teams that were playing kind of from smaller conferences to those high major conferences and vice versa. I think my biggest hit of the first week there was Alvaro Folgares, the power forward for Robert Morris. I had him 10 plus rebounds milestone, plus 300, and that ended up cashing, and that was a pretty good hit. So I'll definitely take that anytime.
Yeah, those prop markets occasionally a little vulnerable out there. Nice to see you took advantage of those. We saw so much conversation, Rohit, around the lack of Cinderella, the lack of upsets, the major conferences dominating, taking up all the seats here in the Sweet 16. Do you have a big takeaway as to how we got here? Is that a one-off or perhaps the new norm?
It's hard to tell, and I think part of the reason is because, this whole transfer portal thing and how it's working out now, a lot of the times when these, smaller mid-major teams are getting good talent, that talent is gone within a year or two. It's ending up, bigger, these bigger conference, these bigger, more high-profile programs. You look at Arkansas. I mean, you look at, John Dell Davis. You look at that Florida Atlantic team that made a run a couple years ago. Pretty much 4 of their 5 starters are still playing in this tournament right now. You've got Elijah Martin. You've got Golden over in Michigan. So it's really tough, I think, for those smaller conference teams to stay successful long term now.
Yeah, it's interesting. I saw people make the FAU point. The only thing is that FAU team was given the opportunity to run it back, and they failed massively. It's a big reason that Dusty May left. I think we had some teams this year who just couldn't crack through, right? Colorado State was, an incredible Derek Queen buzzer beater away from making this run. UC San Diego had a chance against Michigan. They couldn't push through, and that Michigan team carried on, and then, they knock off Texas A&M. I don't know. I don't think Cinderella is dead just yet. I also don't think, and I thought this was foolish, there were some people saying, oh, this would be the death of college basketball. I don't know, Rohit. I look at the Sweet 16, the eventual Elite 8. I think we're in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, I mean, it looks pretty great to me. I mean, all these teams are really exciting. A lot of these teams, that we saw come close, like you said, were kind of those smaller conference teams. And it was very close, those margins. Even a team like St. Mary's, for example, it's like they fell down early, but in the second half, you saw that they could hang with Alabama. So definitely something to keep in mind. I think Gonzaga had a bit of a rough seeding as well. I feel like Gonzaga was certainly talented enough to be a Sweet 16 team. They just went up against Houston a little bit too early.
You mentioned Alabama. They have a really interesting matchup coming up where BYU's offense has been playing so well, Rohit. Do you think that we're going to see Alabama, are they going to need to play better defensively, or, hey, look, 195, we're fine? What's your early read on that game?
Yeah, I mean, I've been thinking that they're going to sharpen up on the defensive end, focus a little bit more all season. Hasn't really happened. I mean, even in that St. Mary's game, the Gales were getting tons of open looks. They just weren't making them. This whole year, it just seems like they just want to run and gun and think they can outscore everybody. And I think that's what you're going to see here. I mean, playing against a BYU team that, if you look at adjusted tempo, they're kind of middle of the pack, but they certainly can get sucked into those fast-paced shootouts. I think Alabama's going to make it one of those games, and it's going to be a really, really high-scoring one. It's actually one of my favorite bets looking at the early board so far. The over team total for Alabama opened at 89.5. And you look, they've hit that number in 9 of their last 14 games. All the teams where they went under that total were teams in the top 20 in adjusted defense per KenPom. BYU is 71st. So definitely think we're going to see a lot of points here.
Yeah, it's a high total, but it's a high total for a reason. A game, though, that unless I get in the car and get out of New Jersey, I won't be able to bet, which is very frustrating. And I probably will mention every time that game and the Duke-Arizona game comes up, because it's very frustrating. What do you make, Rohit, of Michigan State, where they were pushed by Bryant, they pulled away, pushed by New Mexico, pulled away, now playing Ole Miss? I would imagine this team's going to have to start much better to avoid what would be a 2-6 upset.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you saw that with the Iowa State against Ole Miss. The Rebels came out flying, and they really took advantage of Iowa State. And Michigan State needs to be a little bit better from the get-go. But I think they have the tools, they have the players to do it. I think part of the reason they just wear down teams so much is because they have such phenomenal depth. So, I mean, that's kind of been their recipe for success for a lot of the season, but they definitely need to get getting off to better starts. I think they will do it against Ole Miss. Probably my favorite bet actually on the early board right now. Michigan State -3. You look at the number, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense because they're ranked slightly ahead of Iowa State in the KenPom ratings. They're at number 7. Iowa State was number 11, but Iowa State was a 5.5-point favorite without Keshawn Gilbert. So now you're getting Michigan State at -3. I think Ole Miss's bubble kind of bursts here, especially because they can't rebound. And Michigan State's one of the best rebetting teams in the country.
You mentioned the number as well. For those who like to, shop around, I'm seeing some 3.5s now out there in the market. This one looks to be on the climb. So if you do want to back Michigan State, you may want to move now. Rohit, we appreciate it as always. Best of luck. Hope you stay hot during the big dance.
Thanks, Kevin. Best of luck.
All right, Rohit Panay there from Covers. An excellent job helping us get set for what should be an excellent slate of Sweet 16 games. And SportsGrid will have you covered Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, of course, as we look to slice this down to the Final Four this coming week. I want to let you guys know we'll expand on this NBA board in a little bit. But the NBA side for me tonight, give me the Denver Nuggets laying 3 points. I know they're on the second leg of a back-to-back, and I know they are without Nikola Jokic in this basketball game. But we just saw Denver cares a lot about seeding. And Denver is going to be able to catch Chicago off of this awesome, awesome Laker win. I think they catch them sleeping. Look for Denver to win and cover against the Bulls. Sports Million Pick'ems next.
That magic.
Here's a tip. Some machines and online games have higher average payouts than others. Want to try to maximize your odds? Well, do some research online to find games which have the highest RTP or return to player percentage. So now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The early line, only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that roof. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
Just a little flyer, couple of thoughts.
15.5-point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. That's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m.
With you right here on SportsGrid. I'm Kevin Walsh. This Monday night, we're going to take a look over on Sports Million Pick'em. One thing that caught my eye just quickly before we send it over to Tom, but the points plus rebounds plus assists higher lowers now starting to populate your options over on Sports Million Pick'em. 44 higher or lower, 44.5 for Luka Doncic, 51.5 higher lower or Giannis Antetokounmpo. Typically, those are more isolated selections, but we're starting to see those combinations that we all love right over on Sports Million Pick'em. So certainly increases the menu. But let's hear what Tom Vecchio is taking a look at for tonight.
What's going on, and welcome to your Sports Millions Pick'ems here on SportsGrid. Let's hop into tonight. We'll have some NBA tonight, NHL tomorrow, roll through some college basketball as we close out the week. Let's start off with today. Timberwolves taking on the Pacers. At this point in the NBA season, this is one of my ideal matchups. We have two teams both fighting for playoff position, different things. With the Timberwolves trying to stay in the playoff / play-in seeding. Pacers are fighting for home court in the Eastern Conference. Exactly what we want to see. No rotations are being mixed up. Let's start off with the Pacers. Tyrese Halliburton, higher than 10.5 assists. He's been at least 10 assists in 10 straight games. He's consistently getting there. The points are a bit of an issue for Halliburton at times, so I want to stay with the assists. We're looking with a modest over-under in this game, but I'm expecting the assist to come through with Halliburton. I expect him to facilitate the offense as usual. We've seen him push to 12, 15 assists in some of these recent games. That's the role I expect him to play tonight, going with higher than 10.5 assists for Halliburton. On the other side, let's turn to Rudy Gobert, and let's actually go lower than 21.5 points plus rebounds combined. We have seen Gobert, obviously, at times put up a 15 and 15 type of game. We know he can do that at times, but in recent games, we're seeing him limited to 5, 6, sometimes even 3 or 4 field goal attempts. So the points from Gobert are a true issue, and we know that with Pascal Siakam down low, they really have to make an effort to keep Rudy Gobert off the boards. We can see plenty of shots from Anthony Edwards on the outside. We're going to see Julius Randle do his thing, but I think preventing the rebounds from Rudy Gobert will be a path to the Pacers potentially winning this game. We'll expect him to get to 10 rebounds, 12 rebounds, sure, but to him to have 12 or 14 points is not something I'm expecting this time. But again, I'm expecting modest scoring overall, so I think they keep Gobert off the boards. He gets to his normal 10 rebounds, but the points are more of an issue for him when he's only taking 3 or 4 field goal attempts on a nightly basis. So let's turn to Halliburton, higher than 10.5 assists, and Gobert lower than 21.5 points plus rebounds combined, giving us a 3x multiplier. We'll be back tomorrow again with more NHL. We'll turn to college basketball for your Sports Millions picks right here on SportsGrid.
Great stuff there from Tom. You will also find the Anthony Davis higher or lower for points, rebounds, and assists. That number on Sports Million Pick'em is checking in at 31.5. I want to mention something in the NBA. You may not see, well, you won't see it tonight because the Utah Jazz are not playing. I'm curious if we will see Sports Million Pick'em offer us Walker Kessler 3-point made shots higher or lower. Now, typically, this would have been a waste of time because through the first 50 games of the season, Walker Kessler had attempted 6 total 3-point shots. In the last 5 games, he has attempted 6, 5, 6, 1, and 8. That is obviously wild. 6 total attempts in the first 50 games. He's now averaging 5 attempts per game over the last 5, or 6 attempts per game over the last 5. You are seeing Utah, with all of their losing, let Walker Kessler try something different. It's not been fruitful yet. Eventually, though, he's got to get 2 to fall, maybe attack it in the points market. It just feels like something we should keep an eye on. One of some potentially additional markets we could see on Sports Million Pick'em. Here's a couple of other of the items that you'll be able to find.
Check out Sports Million's social casino featuring classic slots and brand new game concepts. The social casino features the opportunity to win large sweepstake coins, and the games are always free to enter. Go play now at sportsmillions.com/social-casino. That's sportsmillions.com/social-casino.
All right, up next, we'll talk to Coach James Young. Tonight's NBA slate and everything surrounding the NCAA tournament. That's next.
Here's a tip. Some machines and online games have higher average payouts than others. Want to try to maximize your odds? Well, do some research online to find games which have the highest RTP or return to player percentage. So now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The early line, only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that ring. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple of
15.5-point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. That's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8.
It is Game Time Decisions. We are live on SportsGrid on a Monday night. I'm Kevin Walsh. I am now joined by the Coach James Young. A lot for us to get to, JY. We have an NBA board. We've got the women's tournament as well. I've got some picks out there of my own. We'll get some from you in just a couple of moments, but I want to turn back the clock. I want to take a look at the week that was, the games that were, and see if there were any major takeaways from you. I'll throw it to you open-ended. Did you have one main takeaway from the madness that was?
Oh, one? Bro, how much time I got? All right, I'll
Just
go
give
quick.
me one.
Number one, if you can't make threes, you can't win in a tournament.
Uh-oh.
I got suckered into St. John's. They can't shoot. I'll tell you what, we should have known better, Kevin. 47-45 also on the boards against Omaha. They got punked. And the amazing thing is people are sitting there going after Rick Pitino but sitting RJ Lewis. What was he supposed to do? The guy took, arguably, his last shot, Kevin, was the worst shot I've ever seen in the history of basketball. Over three guys, stumbling, Zuby's shaking him. He didn't want him. Rick did him a solid by getting him out of the game. But for Cal, hey, maybe he's figured it out. They're playing better. I still don't think they beat Texas Tech.
Well, Coach, let's we're on opposite sides. What was Pitino supposed to do? I don't know. Keep his best player in?
Absolutely not. No way.
Well, so here's the thing,
no
Coach.
way.
The last shot R.J. Lewis took was a made free throw, which was, of course, preceded by another made free throw. So he finally watched the ball go in the basket, but Rick had already decided he was coming out. And I understand if in that moment things started going well, except that didn't happen at all. They couldn't score the ball at all. They were already down a man because Kadari Richmond fouled out. Aaron Scott gets to run around shooting 1 of 10. So for me, from my vantage point, old Ricky P said, I'm good no matter what. I'm going to show this kid up. We're going to win without him, which was super short-sighted because as a coach, don't you think Rick Pitino is trying to actually win more than just one game, and he's not going to do a darn thing unless R.J. Lewis plays well, and he shot the kid's confidence dead right there.
Oh, no. R.J. Lewis shot his confidence dead. I'll tell you what happens in that situation, because I've been in that situation. That kid comes out of the game. He sits next to Masiello. If Rick Pitino goes to him and goes to Masiello, talk to him. Talk to him. When he's ready, you let me know. And I guarantee you, Masiello talked to him, and he went back to Rick and goes, can't do it. I've seen it. I've been in that situation. And listen, if you want to blame Rick for anything, it was the fact that they went one time in the last 3.5 minutes, one time down low to Zuby Ejiofor. They should have went inside because they were all checking. The best player besides Zuby for that team was Travion Smith. Like, he was actually good. Wilcher looked like he was gun shy. They put a white kid in the game. I had to go look him up in the lineup. And then he goes baseline dunks. They figured it out. They were a hot mess. Yes, maybe Rick could have done it differently. What he should have done is shot RJ way before he got to that point to calm him down. But the problem is because Kadari got in foul trouble, he had to keep going to him, and he didn't get him under control. And at the end of the game, when it got tight, they never went inside the Zuby. And I think that was the question that everybody needs to ask Pitino, and no one has asked him yet.
Yeah, but my thing then, Coach, is even in that way, Pitino's still wrong. Because then he should have benched him earlier. That way he could have brought him back in with 5 minutes to go. They weren't winning that game without R.J. Lewis. Now with Kadari already fouled out, you're already getting out-athlete, out-talented, and you're going to go throw the Big East player. They couldn't score the ball. They threw their leading scorer on the bench. That's bad basketball.
Well,
that's not going to work.
I'll tell you
and
this
it didn't work.
I'll tell you what. I'll give you a history lesson because you're a little bit younger than me.
Easy.
1994. Here comes John Starks, chucking all over the place after playing well in most of the early in the season series versus Houston. And every Knicks fan was saying, take him out, take him out, take him out, take him out. He's shooting you out of the game. He's shooting you out of the game. That's what I saw. I saw a guy that was tunnel vision, that was not looking at anybody but himself. They had to get him out of the game. You could talk about he should have run different stuff. Yes, he could have sat him earlier, but at the end of the day, I don't think RJ is why they lost that game. They lost the game because they got out-punked. They got out-rebounded every big spot. The fifth call of Kadari Richmond, which was one of the all-time great coaching moves. Because if you saw Cal, he was right next to the referee. Shot went up, no foul call. Here's the rebound. There's the whistle. Who blew the whistle? Not the baseline guy, the diagonal guy who was right in front of Cal. Cal got that call made. Now, there's another mistake Rick Pitino should have made. There was a stoppage of play right before that. Rick should have been going offense, defense. And that's where Masiello comes in. Masiello's got to have a guy at the scorer's table that says, if there's a stoppage of play, we're on defense, you're getting Kadari. Get him out of the game. There were mistakes made across the board by Pitino. But I don't blame him for what he did with R.J. Lewis. Not as a coach, not at all.
Yeah, I mean, again, listen, we can talk about John Starks. The reality is John Starks is not the R.J. Lewis equivalent, right? Again, that would be more so Pat. Again, you already fouled out your Derek Harper in terms of Kadari. To willingly let the talent deficit get worse is a disaster. He just watched 2 free throws go in the basket. You're in the double bonus. I thought it was a bit of a nightmare. What I'll say on the Cal side of it, though, JY, is he better enjoy this one season of low bar expectations. They might end up with top 5 title odds next year because he's still got the superstar class coming in, and I still don't know how many of these kids are leaving. Big Z, going nowhere. Wagner, going nowhere. Carter Knox, Kevin's brother, I don't think he's ready. Boogie Flan's gone. Maybe Billy Richmond. He's got all the money in the world to hit the portal. When we get next year's title odds, JY, if Arkansas is not opening with top 8 title odds, something went wrong.
Kevin, I will say this right now. Wasn't Arkansas a top 15 team in the country before the season started?
Absolutely.
They were supposed to be here. So this whole thing of Cal like playing with house money right now, I don't buy it. They've been a disappointment all year. They are one of the 5 most talented teams in the country, and they're so poorly coached. And if St. John's hit any kind of jump shots, and if Kadari doesn't foul, and I'll push back on this, Kadari isn't Derek Harper.
Yeah,
he is.
JY, they lost to a team who shot 2 and 19. No, Patino gets no grace. His opponent shot 2 and 19. He gets no grace.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I don't want people going around punching up Calipari like they should have a parade. They were supposed to be in this spot. They were supposed to be in the Sweet 16. They weren't. Kevin, they're a top 5, top 10 talent team in the country. They've been far undercoached all year. Now, if they go beat Texas Tech and then get to the Elite 8, then we could talk. But they've been a massive disappointment. One win doesn't erase the whole season with me with Calipari.
All right, we're going to take a break here. When we come back, let's put some picks on the board. Tonight's NBA slate, tonight's women's games, round of 32, superstars in action, and start to look ahead towards the Sweet 16. I'm Kevin Walsh. I'm joined by Coach James Young. We'll be right back here. It's Game Time Decisions on SportsGrid.
That magical time of the year when everyone suddenly becomes a basketball expert. Highlight watching, mascot picking, bracket stressing. Sound familiar? Skip the guesswork with Bracket Central. Real expert picks, trusted analysis, and zero stress. Because choosing teams by mascot cuteness isn't exactly a winning strategy. Only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
It's made every match so much more enjoyable to watch because you don't get the stinkers, right?
Right. It goes back to these guys being smart. They figured out that if I've got the hammer in my back pocket and I don't relinquish it, we can just play them straight up and win. They figured that out. So it's like, all right, now credit to the people at TGL. Like, no, we need to fix this because the hammer can change the match. And since we fixed it, you're not out of it.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Back right here on Game Time Decisions. Kevin Walsh, Coach James Young. A little disagreement in the air. It's going around. I like it. I like it.
It's good. You know what? We're friends. We're not gonna. I mean, we get along. It's a difference of opinion. Here's the other thing. I think you mentioned the point that he was obviously the Big East Player of the Year.
Yeah.
To me, watching St. John's all year, he was not the most important player. It was Kadari. If you look at the end of game, every big game, it was Kadari. End of game, Providence, ball in his hands, it was Kadari. Who gets the poke steal versus Marquette? It was Kadari. So to me, Kadari is the engine, and this is what you worried about Kadari because when he doesn't play well, they tend to lose. And that's kind of what happened in that contest. Look at some of the other games. Some of his lowest point outputs. 3 points versus Georgia, they lose. You look at 9 points versus that game they lost against Creighton. And then obviously the foul out. And this is what happened at Seton Hall. When Kadari's not at his best, it's a big part to handle. He may not lead the team in scoring, but he does so many other things that I think personally he's the most important player on St. John's. And that includes Ejiofor and RJ.
Again, and here's what I'll say, and then we'll move on. I have no problem with that. Even more so than I can't afford to put RJ on the bench. That's all. I can't. I'm already up against it. JY, I just want to know, NBA board tonight. We've got the Nuggets and the Bulls, the Lakers, and the Magic. AD makes his return for the Dallas Mavericks against the Brooklyn Nets. Are there any picks for you on tonight's NBA card?
Wait. He's not playing in the G League. I thought he was going to the G League. He's not going to the G League? He's not going to G League? No? All right. Well, listen. I like, there's 3 games I looked at tonight, Kev. Number one, I looked at the Timberwolves plus 2.5. Big spot for them versus Indiana. I do think, you'll get, now it's 1.5, so it's almost at a pick 'em at this point. But if you want to go take the Timberwolves on the money line, I have no problems doing that. I just look at the Timberwolves team in a big spot. They should be able to get the job done versus a team in Indiana that's been playing better that has not covered 3 straight. Next, Nuggets minus the points. Now, if I'm not mistaken, they are back at home, which he's out tonight, but Nikola Jokic should be back next game. I still think they find a way to get it done versus Chicago, minus 3.5. And then lastly, Boston. I know no Horford against Sacramento. Short spread, 3.5. Give me the Celtics. So Celtics, Nuggets, T-Wolves.
All right, so a couple of sides there from JY within the NBA. Anthony Davis coming back tonight is very interesting because it does feel as if it is against maybe the wishes, but if it was up to the organization, I think AD wouldn't be coming back. I think AD wants to come back. I think what's very interesting is, could we see Anthony Davis moved this summer? It's on the board. Now's not the time to fully get into that. Coach, tonight the women's game features superstars in Paige Beckers and Juju Watkins. The 2-seeded Connecticut Huskies are nearly 30-point favorites, almost a 20-point number in favor of the Trojans. So I doubt you think either are on upset alert, but do you have any picks in either of those basketball games?
No, I think UConn is going to absolutely roll. Listen, this was a team that, the women's game, folks, you don't forget upsets, Kevin. You don't even get close games in the women's game. You don't, because there's such a disparity in regards to, the haves versus the have-nots. So I would lay the points with UConn tonight. I think the interesting thing is team to watch tonight coming up, and this will be next round, is Texas. And I want to get to this if we can. I don't think they're coming out of that region, okay? I think the winner of TCU versus Notre Dame takes out Texas. If you line up, Kevin, the one line, right, and you think about it, the team that you would want to play the most, to me, is Texas. I want to play Lauren Betts at 6'7". I don't want to play Juju and Kiki, and I certainly don't want to play South Carolina. So that's a team to watch out for. If there's a bet you want to look at either, depending on what you like. Remember, TCU beat Notre Dame in the women's version of Atlantis earlier in the year. It was a lead, that big comeback by TCU. So to me, if you want a little bit of a future bet, take either one of those teams to come out of that region. I don't think it's going to be Texas.
I am on the over in UConn, South Dakota State. The Huskies rolled Arkansas State. Relentless approach, quite frankly, putting 100 up on that basketball team. If they come out with that same level of intensity, that'll be good for my total. South Dakota State, a 10 seed, though, does have good wins under their belt. They had to get a good one against Oklahoma State just to get to this game. They hung with Duke. They did get rolled up by Texas. Guess what? 160 points in that one. I think the Jackrabbits can score it enough to get me through this total here. And I am going to play Juju Watkins over the 32.5 points plus rebounds. Juju was, and it's going viral, looked disinterested
in the UNC Greensboro game. Who could blame her? Only playing 28 minutes, probably a part of that as well, because that's about 7-8 minutes less than she's typically expected. In a tournament game, it's way less than Juju is expected. And tonight, going up against a 9 seed in Mississippi State, that could see her get 38 minutes. Quite frankly, that's just how tournament basketball is when it comes to the college game. And that alone can get us through this number in a bounce-back spot in terms of the points. The rebounds have been there for Watkins as well. So that's going to be my look for that game. Live right now. Yeah, go ahead, Joey.
Real quick, two things. One, South Dakota State. You're right. You're right. Very underrated. Someone told me when the bracket came out that they were going to pick off Oklahoma State. But if you want a prop, look at AZ Fudd, 15-plus points at plus 120. I think they need to continue to get her going. She is the X factor. More than Paige, more than Strong. Paige is more willing to give other people a ball. She doesn't need to score. Obviously, Sarah Strong, first, second-team All-American. But it's AZ Fudd. If they're going to win a national championship, Kevin, she's got to be the one. Plus 120, 15-plus points.
Live right now, Maryland in their own building on upset alert from Alabama, trailing by 6 in the fourth quarter. And similar situation for LSU hosting Florida State. They trail by 1. It is nearly the end of the first half in that basketball game. We look at the Sweet 16 with Coach next.
That magical time of the year when everyone suddenly becomes a basketball expert. Highlight watching, mascot picking, bracket stressing. Sound familiar? Skip the guesswork with Bracket Central. Real expert picks, trusted analysis, and zero stress. Because choosing teams by mascot cuteness isn't exactly a winning strategy. Only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
It's made every match so much more enjoyable to watch because you don't get the stinkers, right?
Right. It goes back to these guys being smart. They figured out that if I've got the hammer in my back pocket and I don't relinquish it, we can just play them straight up and win. They figured that out. And so it's like, all right, now credit to the people at TGL. Like, no, we need to fix this because the hammer can change the match. And since we fixed it, you're not out of it.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Live on SportsGrid, Kevin Walsh, Game Time Decisions, Sweet 16. I know that's where a lot of your minds are. How's the bracket doing? Most of you are in a great spot. Let's be honest. Why? Because you're like, it probably be a lot of chalk here. The only thing that upset me about the bracket, the only thing, is I had Kansas going to the Final Four, and I knew to fade St. John's. I just did it with the wrong team. And that's on me. But what we do have is really should be great, great games in the Sweet 16. And on Thursday, Your full coverage will be done by Ben Stevens and Coach James Young out of our New York studios, so they will not have to be up against it like us in New Jersey, who cannot even bet on Alabama and BYU and Duke, Arizona. Coach, I want to ask you about Duke. Their win over Baylor was dominant. Their title price keeps on climbing. Do you feel that this team is in a tier of their own, or could you see them still end up not cutting the nets down?
I don't think they're cutting the nets down.
Okay.
I think it's Houston. You and I have been on Houston. You know this. I've been on Houston pretty much all year. You've been on Houston for the better part of the last 3-4 weeks. I just think they're the team. See, Houston is a different team than people realize. It's their ability not just to defend, Kevin, but their ability to score. And it's been different guys, right? It's been obviously the play of LJ Cryer last game with the 30-piece, right? But to me, what I saw in the last game that impressed me is the junkyard dog got busy. And that's Jawan Roberts, a guy that doesn't get the attention that a lot of other people do, but he does a lot of the grunt, none of the dirty work. And his 18.8 rebound, 5 assists game going against a guy like Ike, he was the best big on the floor, right? So if you get the combination of that front line with him and Francis, right, and then you got Cryer, Sharp, and then obviously Uzan. If you got them playing like that, I think they're winning that championship. I think the toughest spot they're in until they get to the Final Four is the fact that they put them in Indianapolis against Purdue as a 4 seed, which I still don't understand how that happened.
Well, that is one of the reasons I think that Houston asked to go west, where Florida is playing a Maryland team who I think is at this point better than Purdue, but the game's in California. So there's none of, that going on and going into the basketball game here. JY, that Bama total, 175.5 against BYU. Do you think that total being so high, these offenses being so good, does it play into Alabama's hands, or does it make them more vulnerable?
Well, no, I think Alabama is going to be fine. I like them laying the points. I'm scared about the total because I think you never know what happens if teams get off the cold starts. Obviously, Mark Sears getting 2 fouls early in the game last night. They're still working in Grant Nelson. You saw a big Cliff going in and out of the lineup. I just like them minus the points. I think if Cliff's in the game, their defense is a lot better. Their adjusted efficiency is in the 50s. People talk about Alabama like they have the worst defense in the country. Kevin, for the way they play and the pace they play, they're actually damn good defensively if you really think about it. I'm laying the points with Alabama against BYU.
We'll see. The number's climbing. Bama's in that 30-plus club. I slightly want Bama to beat BYU because I think they are far more likely to give Duke a game. And here's the thing. I have my Duke ticket, but you guys know, as Coach mentioned, I'm more attached to my Houston futures. I also just think Duke, Alabama would be a ton of fun. I really do. I know I'm looking past Arizona. I don't think Arizona has what it takes to eliminate the Blue Devils.
They're getting smoked.
You think so?
I think they're going to smoke it. I think they're going to. If Arizona thinks that they're going to go down by 10, 15 points like they did against Oregon last night against Duke, Duke will have that thing down by 20. It ain't happening.
I imagine their plan.
They're going to put Caleb Love in jail. I hate Duke. They're putting Caleb Love in absolute jail. Sweet 16. That's going to be like a home game at the Rock.
Listen, Arizona, advice from Coach, don't go down 15 early. Certainly something they should consider. I think that is fair. We are going to bring in Tom Vecchio. Major League Baseball begins this week. We'll talk about it next.
We're still friends,
right here
right?
On SportsGrid. You better believe it, pal.
That magical time of the year when everyone suddenly becomes